What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday, some news broke in a report that there's an interesting shakeup going on within Sony and PlayStation, as a person who's been there since the start of PlayStation is actually moving on. And this has brought up concerns around maybe the direction for the company, and we're going to go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about this odd discovery that was made within Super Mario Bros. Wonder that has, yes, brought up the Switch too, but also if it's correct at all. And we're also going to be going over a showcase that we have to look forward to this week that should give us some more insight into some pretty big upcoming games. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Spider-Man 2 and the PlayStation 5. Of course, it did very, very well with reviews, and now it appears that it's also doing incredibly well with sales. Go figure. Spider-Man selling well? Who thought that would happen? But we can see this post up over on Twitter. This from the PlayStation account saying, "Great news, Spidey fans. Marvel Spider-Man 2 PS5 has sold more than 2.5 million copies in the first 24 hours. Thanks for making this a high-flying launch." So they've also made mention that this is like the fastest selling PlayStation game ever, and it is a PS5 exclusive, which is impressive. But some, of course, started looking back and running the numbers and realized that they're using this certain the 24-hour window and basically just declaring victory there, which you may as well, because I think Spider-Man 2018 was 3.3 million units sold in the first 3 days, and there were many more PS4s than there are PS5s at this time if you launch align them. So that, at least in that case, it makes sense. And let's be real, this game is going to keep selling. It's going to do very, very well, I feel, all the way through the holidays, then probably for years to come as it continues to sell copies. So yeah, I mean, congratulations to Insomniac and PlayStation. I know the talk has been around bugs and other things, but I'm having a blast with the game so far, and I am coming up to the end of it, but I'm also starting to look around at some of the side quest stuff, and it is kind of keeping me occupied. So maybe this is a game I'll end up 25 or 30 hours in and realize the Platinum Trophy is right there to pick up. But yeah, awesome game, good to see. Sold pretty well, at least in the first 24 hours. Also, we do have Alan Wake 2 coming out at the end of this week, and we had talked about some of the system requirements for PC yesterday. Well, now we're starting to get some of the embargo details, and we can see this post up by Tom Henderson, who just says, "Alan Wake 2 embargo, 9 a.m. Eastern, October 26th. So, okay, the day before it comes out. At least it's not day of, or the codes are going out the same day or something. It seems like codes have gone out, as he does mention that most have PC codes, which has brought up the concerns around the console version. I will say some at Remedy have said, oh, don't worry much about the Xbox or the PlayStation version. There's been a lot of care put into those, and you'll be pleasantly surprised, I believe, is what they had said. And after seeing those system requirements are PC, I will hold out and wait to see what we get when it releases, I guess, and Digital Foundry puts out their video around it. But if many people are getting PC, I don't know, it seems like maybe the Xbox and PlayStation version isn't necessarily one they want out there ahead of that version. So hey, we'll see towards the end of this week. I'm at least going to pick it up. I'm still torn between Xbox or PS5, so we'll see which one I end up with. Oh, and we do have Ghost Runner 2 that's actually out here in the next couple of days, just ahead of Alan Wake 2, and reviews did go live for it, which we can see this posted up over on Metacritic, currently sitting at an 80, and if we look over on OpenCritic, currently sitting at a 79. That seems pretty good for Ghost Runner 2. IGN says it's a sequel that builds upon everything that made the first game great, leading to a 10 to 12 hours of absolutely action-packed, high-speed Cyber Ninja excellence, along with a great replayable roguelike mode as well. And then on the opposite side, PC Gamer dropped the 65 on it, just saying Ghost Runner deserved a sequel, specifically a sequel better than this one. So there you go, two contrasting opinions. I'm sure if you enjoyed the first Ghost Runner, you're probably already ready to roll with Ghost Runner 2. And that's actually one that they had sent a code over for. So if I can find the time, I will at least try it out and see what I think of it. But it's difficult right now. There's just games coming from all over the place, and we're just trying to keep up. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the shakeup that apparently is going on within Sony. And we, of course, already know about the other shakeup with Jim Ryan looking to leave and retire in 2024. But now it appears someone who's very important behind the scenes and has been there for 34 years now, that's right, predating PlayStation is leaving or has left. Now, this comes way of David Jaffe, who had a tweet that was put out that sounded like it was like doomsday coming up for PlayStation. And, well, we can see this posted up over on Inside Gaming, who says that Connie Booth leaves PlayStation after 34 years. This again, according to David Jaffe, who says, "Here's what I can tell you. She is no longer at Sony. I don't have a lot of details. I don't know if she was fired or laid off. When I heard the story, everyone was telling me she was fired." He continued to say that Connie's team also walked out and Angie Smets, who worked at Gorilla for 20 years, would be taking Booth's role. While Jaffe continued to say that these are just things he's heard and not completely verified, he doubled down on Booth leaving Sony and said the Connie thing is pretty much true because I've heard it from 4 people, 2 in and 2 out of Sony. Now, I had mentioned that Connie Booth has been there since before PlayStation. I believe she was within Sony at a different department and then I guess moved over and has been credited with over 120 games, going back to the original Crash Bandicoot, which really worked to put PlayStation on the map back then when it bursted onto the scene in the mid-90s. But she is in a position that is definitely more behind the scenes, and she's not really a big figurehead that's out there that you'll notice, like Phil Spencer, Jim Ryan, Shuhei Yoshida, Andrew Howells, Sean Layden, Doug Bowser, Miyamoto, and so on. Like, she's not one of those kind of people who's just out there, but she's very involved with a lot of the day-to-day stuff to get these games out the door in the first place. And as we've seen, since the 90s, really, it's become quite the task just to get these games to the finish line. I mean, there are so many games that get canceled that we just never know about, right? So it's to think that she's been there that long, involved since the start of PlayStation, now is moving on. And that's the biggest thing now is she moving on because she's retiring? Or is she moving on because David Jaffe bring up the idea that she would be fired? It would seem odd that she would necessarily be fired after doing this for so long and seemingly getting good results. PlayStation has built up into this little empire in gaming at this point. And seeing the idea that she wouldn't have just retired, 34 years being there, that's quite a while. You feel like you get to a position where you go, you know what? A lot of other games are finishing up and then others are going to restart development and production, and it's a whole other thing I have to get on then. It's kind of get between these projects. Yeah, maybe I'm good. Maybe I can move on. I've accumulated enough money and live out life and enjoy the rest of the time after work. But that we're still waiting to see something from Sony on this one. And the fact that she's been there for so long and contributed so much, I assume if this is all correct and she wasn't just randomly like fired for some reason, that there would be some kind of acknowledgement from Sony, like thank you to Connie Booth for 34 years or something within Sony, and she's off to, we wish her best luck in her future endeavors or something there. Who knows? I mean, if she was fired, I'd be curious if she would pop up at Microsoft or something there, because it seems like Microsoft, while Matt Booty I know is, I'm sure, doing the best he can, you get someone like this in there who has a lot of experience and has gotten great results, might be able to take Microsoft to the next level. But maybe she really is just ready to retire and she kind of just said, yeah, I'm good. I'm out. So, well, we'll see what Sony has to say maybe going forward here, or maybe this is just something that stays quiet. But we also have many publications now reaching out to Sony. So one way or the other, somebody is going to get confirmation from somewhere. And I feel like Sony, they may as well go ahead and acknowledge that and just get that out there. So yeah, apparently scoring now to David Jaffe, Connie Booth is out at Sony after, well, basically the entirety of the PlayStation's life. Next up, let's talk about a gaming showcase that will be taking place tomorrow starting 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern time. And this is an Xbox partner showcase. So we can see this posted up over on news.xbox.com, where they say, we are delighted to announce our next broadcast event, the Xbox Partner Preview. This new show format will deliver a fresh mix of indie games and familiar favorites from our third-party partners like RGG Studio, Remedy Entertainment, Studio Wildcard, and others, with more than 20 minutes of trailers and new gameplay footage. They do also mention updates and new looks at games coming to Xbox and Windows, as well as new info on some upcoming Game Pass titles from our incredibly talented, creative third-party partners around the world. They do also drop a few games we can expect there, like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. There's a launch trailer for Alan Wake 2, first gameplay for Ark Survival Ascended, and a dive into the social world of Dungeons of Hinterberg. So I do wonder, I know they've named things like a Dragon and Alan Wake 2. They mentioned indie titles. They mentioned Game Pass. We know that Hollow Knight Silksong is for, but it can we? No, right? Maybe. I mean, it'd be nice to see Hollow Knight Silksong there, but I know every time I bring it up for one of these events, it feels like I'm jinxing it. So that's one of the reasons I'm apprehensive to just say, oh yeah, Hollow Knight's, that's a great prediction to throw out there. I would go into it not expecting Silksong and just be surprised if it's there with some sort of release date, maybe for the first half of 2024. It's hard to say because technically that went through the whole scare of Unity as well. So who knows where their minds are right now. But at least we have a gaming showcase to look forward to tomorrow. And hopefully there are some fun surprises in there for Game Pass. Even something that can shadow drop in right away it's always fun to see one of those happen. But otherwise, tune in, see Alan Wake 2 and Like a Dragon. Should be a solid, I would say, presentation with apparently just trailers, no hosts or anything like that. So it should be back to back to back to back in terms of games. Next up, let's talk about this odd discovery that was made within Super Mario Bros. Wonder that technically plays into the Thousand Year Door remake, which sounds weird, but stick with me here for a second. If we take a look, this posted up over on Go Nintendo, where they say Super Mario Bros. Wonder's unused button overlays fuel Switch successor speculation. Yeah, if we take a look, this is a post that was quoted here from Ed Meyer. It says Super Mario Bros. Wonder has unused overlays for the control guide that shows colored buttons. The left Joy-Con colors are opposite to that of the right. This same pattern also has been seen in the RPG remake and Paper Mario remake. No reason for them to do this. Switch 2. So they're mentioning Thousand Year Door. This was noticed that the button colors, when like a prompt comes up for something in a battle, as an example, they change different colors, whereas before it was color-coded to the GameCube controller. Just seems to be thrown out there as A button is red, for example, and kind of plays into the Super Famicom colors for the buttons. If you take a look at that controller, you'll see what I'm talking about there. But here's the issue. So we have these transparent buttons that are apparently found in Super Mario Bros. Wonder with the data mining, but people have been asking this person, where did you find these? Like, there's a whole list that was posted up by Mondo Mega asking this, where are they? And no response. And then on top of that, people have zoomed in and realized that one of the B buttons looks a little funny, almost like it's been clipped, saying it's fake. And to go on top of that, I did see Luigi Blood said, just so you know, this is fake. And I've reached out to some people trying to find someone who can confirm that these buttons are in Super Mario Bros. Wonder, or found in there in the files, and no one seems to know where they are. Like, this is the first time we've seen it is from this person. So I'm going to say that this is probably fabricated or made up in some way. And it is funny because the first thing that comes up is Switch 2, although that's technically what happened with the Thousand Year Door remake. Is the buttons on the buttons were different colors than we expected from the GameCube version, and the immediate thought is, oh, the next system from Nintendo is going to use Super Famicom colors. It's possible, but maybe they just wanted to make the buttons that color for the remake that, you know, is releasing on the current Switch. Technically, if you look at the Joy-Cons, they don't have any kind of color coordination to them, so you can play around with that if you want in the game files if you're Nintendo. But I will say there was one other thing that was found in Super Mario Bros. Wonder that is actually real, and it's been going on this whole time. You may not have noticed that. So with HD Rumble, we've talked about this before, because of the way it works, those motors can generate sound. Now, if you listen very closely to your controller with HD Rumble on, when you run across those different musical blocks, say in like the first world, it'll actually play the notes through the vibration and stuff in the motor. So if you turn your sound down on your TV, put up to ear, you'll actually hear that. So kind of a fun, nice touch from Nintendo there, and something that many people just don't really know about. So there you go. I still threw you a fun little interesting discovery for Super Mario Bros. Wonder, even though the button overlays probably not real. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1. It is out today on all different platforms with varying degrees of success, with the Switch version running at a lower frame rate than the PS2, and none of the versions hitting native 4K, which still sounds really, really weird. But we can see some of the reviews that were posted up, and, well, we have a 77 on Metacritic and a 77 on OpenCritic that, you know, I actually feel is better than I was expecting based on some of the information that was coming out. I think part of this is, you know what, if you've never experienced these games before, they all function. They all have been matched up to the controller like setups for all these different systems, and they're easily accessible. And this is the first time we've had Metal Gear Solid on something other than the PS3. That was the last time we really got that game, outside of obviously just emulating it yourself. So when you break it down to the idea of there being, what, 7 games, I think, on here, and you take the price tag, okay, that's not bad. And I think that's what I was seeing from some of the better reviews is it's easy to access, there's a lot of content here to enjoy, and they're just good games, so all right, it's a fine collection. But that's the biggest thing, it's just a fine collection. It's not a great collection, and that, I think, is where some of the lower scores came in, is there could have been so much more that Konami could have done here, obviously. They probably could have had a better frame rate on the Switch. They most likely could have hit higher resolution and even played around with some of the oddities, we'll say, within these different games. But to Konami's credit as well, they didn't touch anything in the game that could be considered something that aged poorly, we'll say. They just have a message that comes up and says it may not reflect the current times or something there, right? But they've left the source material completely intact. If you've never played a Metal Gear Solid game before, I will admit, it's a pretty good collection. It is. From what I'm seeing from the outside, I will probably get it on the PlayStation 5, and I think what I'll do on the Switch, just to see for myself, I might buy Metal Gear Solid 2 and just go through that, because that was a game that ran at 60 frames per second on the PlayStation 2, and it sounds devastating that it's at like 30, maybe even less than that on the Switch, considering that's right around where it ran on something like the Vita, and that was not a great experience. But there you go, Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 out today. Not as bad as I was thinking. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, which of these 2D Super Mario games released on a home console is your favorite? Okay, Mario World is number 1 there at 45%. I would agree with that. That's probably the one I would be voting for here. I have a lot of fond memories of that on the Super Nintendo way back in the day. But Mario 3 is also up there for me, so that's a toss-up. 23% on that one. But look at Mario Wonder, the 3rd slot, taking out the original and new Super Mario Bros. It is kind of a shame that the original, the thing that started it all with the original Nintendo in the US is at the end there at 4%. But, I mean, the series has evolved quite a bit, and when you see Mario Wonder coming in now in 2023 and getting comparisons to Mario World, seems like Nintendo really figured out how to put a new twist on 2D Mario, and it is a blast, and yeah, I highly recommend it. I'm still going through it alongside of Spider-Man 2, but when I sit down and play it for 30 minutes to an hour at a time, it is a lot of fun. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Elitza, who says, I'd love to see Insomniac handle Carnage and the War of the Symbiotes. I'm still playing Spider-Man 2, but man, how they've handled the Venom symbiote so far, I just got the Spider-Man symbiote suit, has been absolutely fantastic. Yeah, Carnage makes sense to do for the Spider-Man 3, although Carnage also makes sense if they do a Venom spinoff. My only thing is, if you're gonna do Carnage right, you are teetering on that mature rating for the game, so maybe Carnage would make sense more for just a Venom game, because you can kind of spin that off and say, you know what, it's Venom, it's Carnage, there's gonna be a lot of violence, it's mature rated, but it's not like Spider-Man isn't mature rated, right, when they do Spider-Man 3, so maybe that's the way to go. But the idea of like having all these different symbiotes in there with different powers and a bit, that could be a really cool video game. I think it's the best part of some of these superhero games though, or just superhero franchises. If you do it right, they really do make awesome video games, but you gotta find the right studio and the right license holder who is patient enough to wait 5 or 6 years potentially for the game to get done. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Whereas Connie Booth apparently moving on now from PlayStation. How do you think this will affect kind of the behind the scenes situation there? And then also, what about these different colored buttons for the Joy-Con being apparently found in Super Mario Bros. Wonder, but also being on full display in something like the Thousand Year Door remake. And then what we're seeing here with Metal Gear Solid Master Collection. Are you picking it up? And if so, which one are you jumping into first? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.